Hello and welcome to the special episode of The Defenders on Sansad TV, in which we will bring out the great achievement of the country and its Make in India initiatives, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, in the case of the commissioning and launch of India's indigenously built aircraft carrier, the INS Vikrant, which is the largest warship assembled and built by India. Its naval engineers, along with the various dockyards, including Kochi dockyard, which have worked towards making this dream of the country come true. It puts India in this league of 6 countries only in the world that build and operate their own aircraft carriers as part of a carrier battle group.
In a major boost to India's naval might, Prime Minister Narendra Modi commissioned India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, in Kochi. INS Vikrant is not a mere war machine, but proof of India's skill and talent, Prime Minister Modi said while commissioning the majestic naval vessel at Kochi shipyard in Kerala. Calling it a historic moment, PM Modi said that India's largest and indigenously made aircraft carrier is a unique reflection of India's commitment to becoming Atmanirbhar. He said Vikrant, which means victorious, is huge, massive and vast. The Prime Minister also said that every Indian is witnessing the sunrise of a new future.
यदि लक्ष्य दुरंत है, यात्राएं दिगंत है, समंदर और चुनौतियां अनंत है, तो भारत का उत्तर है विक्रांत। आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का अतुलनीय अमृत है विक्रांत। आत्मनिर्भर होते भारत का अद्वितीय प्रतिबिंब है विक्रांत। ये हर भारतीय के लिए गर्व और गौरव का अनमोल अवसर है।
On the occasion, Prime Minister Modi also unveiled a new naval ensign which is inspired by the seal of the Maratha king Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Prime Minister said that in adopting the new naval ensign, India has removed a burden of slavery off its chest. With this, India has entered the select league of nations with domestic capability to develop such large vessels. INS Vikrant is Indian Navy's second operational aircraft carrier and the largest warship ever built in India.
INS विक्रांत एक एस्पिरेशनल और सेल्फ रिलायंट इंडिया का एक एक्सेप्शनल सिंबल है। यह एक आइकन है राष्ट्र के गौरव का, राष्ट्र की शक्ति का और राष्ट्र के संकल्प का। भारतीय नौसेना नेशनल अथवा इंटरनेशनल लेवल क्राइसिस में फर्स्ट रेस्पॉन्डर के रूप में हमेशा तैयार रहती है। INS विक्रांत की कमीशनिंग इस बात की पुष्टि है कि आत्मनिर्भर भारत का हमारा प्रयास कोई आइसोलेटेड पॉलिसी नहीं है।
A giant warship like the INS Vikrant is very demanding in terms of the technologies and the assets it needs to have on board to become an effective punch against India's adversaries. It is quite literally a floating naval base anywhere in the Indian Ocean where the Indian Navy operates and continue to operate its various ships and frigates. And the aircraft carrier operates as part of a battle group with many other ships and some submarines, giving it cover over the head, in the high seas and underwater. But most importantly, it is a huge threat to India's adversary, and at this point of time will continue to provide India the necessary dominance of the high seas around India's coastlines and well beyond in India's maritime strategic domain, stretching from the Gulf of Oman to the Straits of Malacca.
Built at 20,000 crore rupees, INS Vikrant is 262 meters long, 62 meters wide and has a height of 59 meters. With a displacement of 45,000 tons, INS Vikrant has a top speed of around 28 knots. It has a maximum range of 7,500 nautical miles. The ship has 2,300 compartments and 2,400 kilometers of cables have gone into its making. The Vikrant can accommodate a crew of up to 1,600 people. It has 8 gigantic power generators and can generate 4 lakh liters of water every day. Vikrant is powered by 4 gas turbines totaling 88 megawatt power. It has 15 decks, a multi-speciality hospital, a pool, a kitchen and exclusive cabins for women. But most importantly, it boasts of technology for carrying, arming and recovering fighter aircraft. INS Vikrant is equipped with 32 medium-range surface-to-air missiles. It will also be loaded with AK-630 rotary cannons, which are close-in weapon systems. Further, the Vikrant has the capacity to hold a mix of 30 aircraft and helicopters. Vikrant will operate with approximately 24 Russian-built MiG-29K fighter jets. The Vikrant has involved over 100 MSMEs and indigenous original equipment manufacturers. Over 500 subcontractors and ancillary industries in India have been involved in its manufacture. The steel for the ship has been jointly developed by the Steel Authority of India Limited and the DRDO. The indigenous content of the project is approximately 76%. This includes 2,300 tons of steel, 2,500 kilometers of electric cables, 150 kilometers of pipes and 2,000 valves and a wide range of finished products including rigid hull boats, galley equipment, air conditioning, refrigeration plants and steering gear. The carrier's combat management system, electronic warfare suite, data network, power distribution system and integrated platform management system have all been built indigenously. The combat management system has been built by Tata Advanced Systems, the electronic warfare suite and data network by Bharat Electronics, the power network by L&T and the integrated platform management system by Bharat Heavy Electricals. Kochi has come a long way from 1928 when a modern ship entered its water for the first time. It was SS Padma, built by Bombay Steam Navigation Company, the first Indian-owned shipping company. Cochin Shipyard came into existence in 1972 and is celebrating its 50th year. It built its first ship Rani Padmini in 1981. The yard commenced the shipbuilding operations in 1978, ship repair in 1981, marine engineering training in 1993 and offshore upgradation in 1999. More than 100 ships followed. Many of them were built for clients in the US, the UAE and Europe. The original Vikrant, a majestic class 19,500-ton warship, which was acquired from the UK in 1961, played a stellar role in the 1971 war with Pakistan. India deployed the Vikrant in the Bay of Bengal and its 2 air squadrons of Seahawk fighter jets and Alizé surveillance aircraft were used in strikes on ports, merchant ships and other targets and to prevent Pakistani forces from escaping through maritime routes. Last year, as the IAC One started her first sea trial, the Navy hailed the proud and historic day for India as the reincarnated Vikrant sails for her maiden sea trials in the 50th year of her illustrious predecessor's key role in victory in the 1971 war.
In this episode, we are looking at examining a recent achievement of India, its engineering, its indigenous capabilities, and the signal it sends to the world by the Prime Minister's commissioning of the Indian-built aircraft carrier INS Vikrant, named after its earlier predecessor, which has a great historical record from the 1971 war. But more importantly, the message that Vikrant gives now to the world, making India amongst the top 6 nations in the world that manufactures and operates its own aircraft carrier group, is a very strong message. And we have 2 naval experts who look at a variety of issues concerning not just the manufacturing and putting together of an aircraft carrier of the scale and size of Vikrant, but also what the Navy really needs is the aircraft carrier itself, the game changer that India's Navy needs in its waters. And we have with us Admiral Raman Puri, who I had the privilege first to meet when he was CISC, or the Chief of Integrated Staff in the Ministry of Defense. But in later years, he has been an advisor to the Government of India on naval and maritime issues, and particularly how India should make more at home. And we have the eminent Commodore Ranjit Rai, who has been, for me, on the last 3 decades on the horizon as your go-to maritime expert, whether it is for his articles, for his books, or his comments, a man with a wealth of experience on Navy-related issues. So, Commodore Ranjit Rai, sir, with the Vikrant now having been commissioned by the Prime Minister, and it is on the high seas as a big signal from India to India's adversaries of India's capabilities. Not that we haven't operated aircraft carriers in the past. My limited research shows that we've had aircraft carriers from the 60s onwards. This is the 4th of its kind. Vikrant, its namesake, the earlier version, then Virat, then Vikramaditya, and again Vikrant. So what is so different about this? Because we have very senior naval officers saying that the carrier battle group centered around Vikrant will provide Indian Navy unmatched flexibility and is also a perfect example of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Your views, sir?
Absolutely right. You have said it is a signal not only to tell the world but also India that the epitome of naval construction after the nuclear submarine that India has made is an aircraft carrier. Only 5 nations have been able to do it. Indians have designed it. 76% of the equipment goes into it. The Navy numbers are small, so we cannot achieve 100%. But what a figure! The trial she proved better than the designers thought. And it is equal in length for takeoff of the aircraft like Vikramaditya. It has got 2 takeoff positions. So I think you have very rightly, the nation will see it on this second. The Prime Minister should be very excited. It is showing you that India's manufacturing capability in the military field has come. 1,000 SMEs have supplied their equipment. And even if you talk of the cost, we have saved a lot of foreign exchange. So I think what you said is absolutely correct. Atmanirbharta, the Navy, when we brought the ships in the 60s, and I was very young, we sent 500 officers and 600 men to England to bring back the Brahmaputras, the Khukris, the Kirpans, and the Talwars. And then we brought Vikrant, which you mentioned, the old one, and then we brought the Mysore, Delhi, huge. So from that day, the people who went to England said, if they can do it, we can do it. So I think it is a credit to those and much bigger credit to the current Navy that a signal is going out that after our automobile industry, our naval warship and manufacturing capability in the world, in India, is coming of age.
Okay, so you've ticked all the boxes in favor of naval manufacturing and the whole inventory that the Navy has, virtually spelling out ships and frigates that are part of history now, because when you look at the great high point of the Navy's achievement in the 71 war, many of these, the Vikrant, the Kukri, the Talwars, they were all part of the operations launched under the leadership of Admiral Nanda. But Admiral Puri, sir, two things that come to my mind. One is, apparently, there are a number of Indian companies that have been involved with the Vikrant production initiative. The big ones, the names include BEL, BHEL, L&T, Kirloskar, so on and so forth. But the issue is that there are great costs involved. And the costs itself, I'm told, run in excess, the total cost of the aircraft carrier, in excess of 20,000 crores. That is something that other services would also ask for one single force multiplier of that kind of cost. Compare it with 3 times the cost of that is 60,000 crores for 36 Rafales. So there are costs involved. And based on the costs, the question that emerges is, do we need 3 aircraft carriers that the Navy has been talking about? And what little I understand, and I've been on the high seas with Virat, and I have seen it doesn't operate in isolation. It is a monarch. It has a whole fleet around it, and it probably has even submarines giving it cover as it moves in its operational capacity. So the debate about how many more aircraft carriers versus submarines is one issue. And the other debate is that, do we need to invest so much in large aircraft carriers as against smaller ships?
As far as Vikrant is concerned, I would tend to agree with Ranjit that it's a great step for the Indian industry to have come up with such a complicated ship. It is a city, it is a platform for war, it is a platform which maintains aircraft. So at a time, I remember when I was commanding Vikrant, we had something like 2,000 people on board. And this will have even more. So to design and develop, and Atmanirbharta, in my view, is not so much about what equipment we get from where, but the design must be held by us. Because if you hold the design and you hold the IP of that design, then you can, if there is a supply chain breakdown, you can do something about it. If you don't hold the designs of what you are doing, then it is very difficult. So anyway, I think that in that regard, Vikrant has been a sterling success. But your other question about affordability, if I may just
yes, sir.
Just put it. Well, we have a naval budget which has hankered around about 25,000 crores. It's about that. That is the size of the naval budget. I think the hierarchy has to figure out how many aircraft carriers, what aircraft will go on them. They also cost.
Absolutely.
I mean, an aircraft carrier without aircraft is, is a sitting duck. So it has to have aircraft. So, I mean, if 36 Rafale cost whatever they did, 60,000 crores, I reckon 30 aircraft plus some in reserve, etc., about 40 to 45 aircraft will not cost very much lesser. I think they would be lesser. I mean, Rafale is its own class. But fact is, they would not be very much lesser. The other thing is what aircraft would go on it. To my understanding, just now we have the MiG-29. I'm sure the Navy would like to have another aircraft on it, but I think the choices are going to be very limited.
Yeah, I'll come to that, sir. I'll come to that. In fact, the Navy has even indicated as long as a few years ago that after the MiG-29s, which are there being used, at least for practice purposes, and on the other aircraft carrier, they're probably not going to be the one the Navy will go with for the new aircraft carrier. And I'm told the competition for the time being is between F-18 and Rafale, and Hindustan Aeronautics is looking at an LCA maritime version, but all this will take time. But the bottom line is, that's what the point the Admiral made, and Commodore, I want you to clarify on that, that if your naval budget is 25,000 crores and your aircrafts will not cost anything less than 50,000 crores or so, because considering the fact that 36 Rafale cost us 59,500 crores. So even if you give them a 20% discount, the fact of the matter is that there is going to be money involved. Now, I am at no stage suggesting that the aircraft carrier per se is too expensive a platform for us to have. We've always had it, and we've shown technical skills to operate it, and we compare very well with all others, including I have seen certificates on the aircraft carrier by American battle groups giving it to the captain of the ship to say that you operate as per NATO standards. So the Navy's competence notwithstanding, the issue in front of us is a slightly different one. And that is that if the aircraft carrier is what it is, then is it a warship that can help us convey messaging in our neighborhood, because the Navy is asking for 3 aircraft carriers, which means our strategic areas of interest are from the Gulf of Oman to the Straits of Malacca, roughly, give or take a little. So clearly, there is a very strong message that goes with it. But are we going to be able to guard these naval waterways on our own, or are we expecting more and more American involvement with all the hype about Quad being what it is?
Well, Aruf, you asked 2 very interesting questions. The government of India told the Navy, you are the net security provider for the Indian Ocean.
Yes.
That means for our ocean, Bharat ke sagar ke liye. Therefore, you said it earlier, a task force with Vikrant, an aircraft carrier, MiG-29s or F-18s or Rafale, whatever it is, and the new MH-70R, 60R coming in, they can defend any choke point, be it the Malaccas, be it the 8-degree channel, be it the Bab el Mandab. Nobody dare touch the net security provider along with the Air Force Navy strategy. So that I would like to answer. But you also mentioned that the cost, yes, is going to cost the country. But the country is on the rise, and therefore we should not be all the time thinking country is on the rise on the map of the world. It needs, as you said, influence. This carrier will give you. And finally, this question has always come up, that these aircraft are also extra squadrons for the country. So if Air Force wants so many squadrons, they should think big and say, here the Navy's got 4 squadrons. So therefore, if we need, the pinch comes, they are our squadrons. We have got MiG-29Ks, they went to Ladakh for the Air Force. So therefore, we have to balance this question. And you're very right. It will cost a lot of money. But if a nation is on the rise, you have to think beyond your means. And that is how good nations have grown. And the maritime world is the future.
Well, you're a big champion of all that. And I think the National Security Advisor will certainly be very happy to hear what you've said, because he said things on the same lines. And I know naval aircrafts and naval pilots have been used. In fact, a former naval chief earned his Veer Chakra in the 71 war flying with the Air Force, though he was a naval aviator. I'm talking of Admiral Arun Prakash, if I'm not wrong. But Admiral Puri, sir, I want to understand from you that they say that 90% in the volume and 70% in value of our trade comes from the high seas. The Navy plays a very important role. But there is an increasing element of concern about what the Chinese could be doing, because Chinese tend to emphasize more, even now, though they are working on the third aircraft carrier. And there's still doubts about what's its name, what's its capacity, because pictures have been picked up from satellite and not much Chinese publicity yet on that. They are submarine centric, sir. So the argument is that would attack submarines by contrast offer an ideal numerical advantage to whichever navy that operates that vis-a-vis aircraft carriers? Because at the end of the day, the Navy is not about guarding routes of trade. The Navy is about guarding the nation's coastlines in the event of war. Your view, sir?
I would disagree that navies guard coastlines. But yes, they do ensure that, especially in the Indian Ocean, that the choke points remain in your control.
Right.
And for controlling those choke points, my personal view is that attack submarines are necessary. You require attack submarines in those areas to be able to control the choke points. And with all sorts of missiles today coming into the game, the carrier will need very good anti-missile defenses. I mean, all those systems will have to go in. I don't know how much of them are already there in this carrier, but you will need anti-missile defense systems. You will need the fortunate thing is that today, as far as radars are concerned, as far as electronic warfare equipment is concerned, we don't nearly go to anybody. I think we are quite well off ourselves. But as far as aircraft, I mean, an aircraft carrier will need to have, if it is operating at distances, its own airborne early warning or AWACS systems. And that would probably require a 65,000 ton carrier, or maybe even more. I mean, to put that airborne early warning on a helicopter is it's a poor man's choice. There's nothing else that one has, so you use that. But airborne early warning, anti-submarine patrols, a carrier requires so much also of support. So when we go into the issue of costs, it is not just the carrier, but we must be, and I'm sure the naval headquarters must have thought about it, as to what are the lines of development that are necessary to keep that carrier effective, to keep it safe. And there, I believe we will need attack submarines.
How do you judge the aircraft carrier group's capabilities and not just the aircraft carrier per se? Because as you mentioned briefly, you've commanded an aircraft carrier, so you know it better than all of us. How does aircraft carrier come across as a threat to the adversary? Is it its capability to launch aircrafts closer to the enemy's coastline? Is it its capability to have more high-tech systems than the Navy can provide to other ships and frigates? Or is it the whole entourage that goes with the aircraft carrier group that comprehensively provides armada which is coming towards you and not just one aircraft carrier?
No, that's true. I mean, a carrier by itself will require other support ships, and that's why they say carrier battle group. So there will be other ships around it, and in my view, the carrier battle group will need will be a fairly resource-rich affair. It's not a resource, and the nation has to see what resources are available, what they can provide, and what are the competing platforms that give them equally good or maybe better capability. And there I am a fan of attack submarines, frankly. I'm a fan of attack submarines because I think if there's one platform that we can use offensively, it is an attack submarine.
And how are we placed with it?
And the point is that I would say that we are good within the Indian Ocean region. It would be, I don't know whether we plan to go, we are the net
Right now we don't have the capacities.
Yeah, so within the Indian Ocean region, we will be good. But even there, to control all the choke points, etc., it's good to have attack nuclear submarines with you. So whether the nation can afford 3 carriers, 3 or 4 attack submarines, because conventional submarines, they are all right for certain roles, but if the role is at a distance from the base port, then their time on task is very limited.
Limited, right.
So it's a total strategy, and I'm not aware of how the planning has gone on, but I'm sure the naval headquarters will be thinking of all these things.
Yeah, well, on that note, I'm sure you are aware, sir, it's just a question of maybe a few twists and turns now at this late stage you might not be privy to, but having been where you have been, I'm sure you can educate us in a separate session, but that is for another day. Thank you very much for your wisdom, and thank you very much for watching. Until our next episode, goodbye.